The great meeting hall of Harmony Prime Station stretched out like a metal canyon. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in their special seats. Each race had different needs. The fish-like Depths Union floated in water tanks. The rock-like Zirathi stood on heated platforms. The bug-like hive clusters hung from the ceiling in their mesh pods. At the center of it all, Ambassador Jin Wu sat with his small human team. So Mi, the military woman, checked her datapad. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. Hanbeo, the culture expert, took notes as always. He had been doing this job for 20 years. He knew every alien gesture and custom. Jin Wu looked around the room. 300 years. That was how long humans had been here. 300 years of helping other races talk to each other. 300 years of stopping wars before they started. 300 years of being treated like servants. The human tax proposal is now open for discussion, announced the council speaker. The speaker was a tall, thin Zirathi made of living crystal. Light moved through its body as it talked. A Vorthic representative stood up. The Vorthak looked like walking meat with too many arms. When it spoke, machines turned its words into sounds other races could understand. The Vorthic hegemony supports this tax, the alien said. Humans take too much council time with their emotion talks. They should pay for the trouble they cause. Jin Wu felt his jaw tighten. Trouble. Humans had stopped the Zirathi-Vorthic war 50 years ago. They had saved millions of lives. And now the Vorthak called their help trouble, so Mi leaned over to whisper, "Sir, my people are ready. If you give the word, we can be out of here in 6 hours." Jin Wu nodded but kept watching. He wanted to see how far this would go. A Zirathi council member activated its speaking crystals. Logic supports the tax proposal. Human emotional methods are inefficient. Our quantum computers can handle mediation tasks better. Emotions cloud judgment. Pure logic is superior. Hanbeo stopped writing. In all his years, he had never heard such foolish words. Computers could translate languages, yes, but they could not understand why the Depths Union sang sad songs before making deals. They could not know that hive clusters danced to show respect. They could not feel the fear behind a Vorthic's angry words. More voices joined in. The plasma communion, beings made of living energy, flickered in agreement. Humans are primitive. Their hearts rule their heads. This weakness spreads to others. We must remove this infection from our perfect system. The stellar nomads, who lived in spacesuits and never touched solid ground, added their support. We waste time explaining feelings to humans. Cold space teaches us that only facts matter. Emotions are for weak races. One by one, the great races of the galaxy spoke. Each one agreed. Humans were a problem. Humans were expensive. Humans were holding back progress. Jin Wu listened to it all. His face showed nothing. Inside, something was breaking. Not his heart, that had broken years ago, something deeper. His faith in these people he had served for so long. The worst part was not the insults. Jin Wu had heard those before. The worst part was the lies they told themselves. They really believed they could run the galaxy without humans. They really thought emotions were weakness. The Depths Union speaker rose from its water tank. Its fish-like head had no expression humans could read, but Jin Wu had learned to understand the small movements of its fins. The Depths Union has a final point, the alien said. Humans should be grateful. We let them join our great civilization. We gave them a place among the stars. They come from a dirty little world with one sun. We raised them up. Now they demand equal treatment? This is like a pet asking to sit at the master's table. The hall filled with sounds of agreement. Clicking from the hive clusters, humming from the Zirathi, bubbling from the Depths Union. Even the silent void watchers flashed their lights in. Support. Jin Wu stood up slowly. The hall grew quiet. For a moment, only the hum of the station's machines could be heard. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Jin Wu said. His voice was calm and clear. I have served as Earth's ambassador for 30 years. In that time, I have helped prevent 47 wars. I have negotiated peace treaties that saved billions of lives. I have helped your children learn to talk to each other across the vast differences between your races. He looked around the room. Every eye, crystal, sensor, and viewing organ was focused on him. Today you have made your feelings clear. You see humans as servants, not partners. You see our abilities as weakness, not strength. You believe you can run this galaxy better without us. Jin Woo straightened his suit jacket. It was a small gesture, but somehow it seemed important. Very well. Humanity formally withdraws from all diplomatic relationships with the Galactic Council. This withdrawal takes effect immediately. We will remove our people from all council stations within 72 hours. The hall exploded into noise. Some races cheered, others seemed confused. A few looked worried. Jin Woo picked up his papers and walked toward the exit. So Mi and Hanbyo followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly loud chamber. As they reached the door, Jin Woo turned back one last time. Good luck, he said quietly. You are going to need it. The three humans left the chamber. Behind them, the greatest gathering in galactic history continued its celebration. They had finally gotten rid of the humans and their annoying emotions. None of them noticed the small cracks that were already starting to form in their perfect system. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of galactic chaos was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the humans left. The galaxy felt different now, quieter in some ways, louder in others. Na floated in her small ship at the edge of the neutral zone. Her vessel, the Silent Watch, was painted black to hide in space. She was not supposed to be here. The human government had ordered all citizens to stay away from galactic affairs. But Yuna could not stop watching. It was like seeing a house fire, terrible, but impossible to look away. Her screen showed the meeting happening on Trade Station Alpha 7, the hive clusters and the plasma communion were trying to solve their big trade problem. It should have been simple. The bugs needed energy, the energy beings needed metals. Easy trade, but nothing was easy anymore. Yuna zoomed in her cameras to see better. The hive cluster representative was doing something that made her stomach hurt to watch. The insect-like alien was performing the ritual death dance. Its 6 legs moved in the ancient pattern that meant, we are serious about this deal. To human eyes, it looked like a beautiful ceremony. To human minds, it meant, we respect you enough to show our most sacred ritual. Yuna had seen it many times. It was the highest honor the hive clusters could give, but the plasma beings did not understand. They had no humans to explain it to. The computer translators only said, hive cluster performs physical movements. They did not say what those movements meant. The plasma communion's representative began to glow brighter. Its energy form shifted from blue to orange to red. Yuna knew this meant the plasma being was confused and getting scared. In their culture, bright colors meant fear. Red meant ready to fight, but the bugs did not know this. To them, the pretty lights looked like a celebration. They danced harder, thinking their new friends were happy. The computer systems tried to help. Trade proposal logged. Mathematical analysis beginning. Logic matrix activated. But computers could not smell the fear chemicals the bugs were making. They could not feel the heat from the angry plasma being. Yuna watched the disaster grow bigger by the minute. She turned on her radio to call for help, then stopped. Who would she call? The humans were gone. The Galactic Council had no one else who understood both races. On Trade Station Alpha 7, things got worse. The hive cluster leader made a deep bow. In bug culture, this meant, we trust you with our lives. But the plasma being saw a creature lowering itself to attack position. The energy alien flared even brighter. Now pure white with panic. The bug leader saw the beautiful light show and thought it meant joy. He signaled to his ship. More hive cluster vessels appeared. 20 ships, all doing the celebration dance with their running lights. It was their way of saying, we are so happy about this deal. The plasma communion saw 20 warships appearing in attack formation. Every ship was flashing lights and what looked like battle signals. The energy being sent out a distress call. Under attack! Send help. Within an hour, 50 plasma communion ships arrived. They came in fast, weapons charging, ready to save their friend from the scary bug attack. The hive clusters saw the energy ships and felt confused. Why were their new trading partners bringing weapons to a party? Maybe this was their way of celebrating too. They brought more ships. Big ones this time. You now watched two fleets face each other across space. Neither side understood what was happening. Both sides thought the other was being hostile. The computer systems kept saying no translation errors detected. All communications clear. But communication was not clear at all. It was broken in ways the computers could not see. Li Min was watching too, from his hidden base on an old asteroid. He had been a cultural expert for the Council before the humans left. Now he was just a man with too much knowledge and nowhere to use it. His fingers flew over his keyboard as he wrote his report. Day 91 since human withdrawal. The hive plasma situation is following pattern C, escalating cultural misunderstanding. Estimated time to violence, 18 hours. Li Min had seen this before. Small problems that humans could fix in 10 minutes were now growing into major crises. The galaxy was full of races that were smart in different ways. But none of them were smart the way humans were smart. The computers tried so hard to help. They translated every word perfectly. They calculated trade values down to the smallest decimal. They processed legal documents in seconds. But they could not translate the language of feelings. They could not explain why a dance meant respect, or why changing colors meant fear. Back at Trade Station Alpha 7, a hive cluster ship moved closer to show friendship. The plasma being saw an attack run beginning. It fired a warning shot. The warning shot hit a bug ship's antenna. It was just a tiny bit of damage. But in hive culture, touching someone's antenna was like spitting in their face. The ultimate insult. The bug ship fired back. Not to kill, just to show they were angry about the rude behavior. The plasma ship thought the fight had started for real. It called all its friends. Battle has begun. They shot first. You now watch both fleets power up their weapons. In her old job, she would have been on that station right now. She would have explained the dance to the plasma beings. She would have told the bugs what the color changes meant. She would have stopped this fight before it started. Instead, she could only watch and take notes. Notes that no one would read. Notes about the slow death of galactic peace. The first shots were fired at 14:32 station time. 3 months and 6 days after the humans went home. The Galactic Council's perfect computer systems recorded everything. Ship movements, weapon discharges, casualty numbers. All the facts were saved in crystal clear detail. What the computers did not record was the real truth. This war started because nobody knew how to say hello anymore. 6 months had passed since the humans left the galaxy to solve its own problems. The problems were not getting solved. Captain Park Jun sat in his ship's command chair, reading messages he did not want to read. His vessel, the Olive Branch, was painted white with green stripes. Before the withdrawal, those colors meant human peacekeeper ship in the galactic code. Now they just made him a target for angry aliens who blamed humans for everything going wrong. Captain, his communications officer called out. Another message from the Zirathi Coalition. They're begging us to mediate their border dispute with the Vorthak. Park Jun rubbed his tired eyes. How many is that today? 17 messages from the Zirathi, 23 from the Vorthak, and 41 from smaller groups asking us to stop the war before it starts. The war, Park Jun hated that word. 3 days ago, there was no war. 3 days ago, the Zirathi and Vorthak were arguing about a small moon called Kes 7. It was a tiny rock with some valuable crystals. Both sides claimed it belonged to them. The problem started with a metal post. The Vorthak had put up a territorial marker on the moon's surface. To them, it was just a simple sign that said, Vorthak territory, keep out. But the Zirathi read it differently. The Zirathi were crystal beings who thought in mathematical patterns. When they saw the metal post, their computers calculated its position. The post was exactly 1.247 kilometers from the center of the moon. To Zirathi minds, this was not random. This was a message. In Zirathi culture, the number 1.247 was very important. It was the mathematical constant they used for territorial expansion formulas. When they saw that number, they thought the Vorthek were saying, "We plan to take more territory using our expansion algorithm." But the Vorthak had just stuck the post in the ground where it was convenient. They knew nothing about Zirathi math culture. To them, 1.247 was just a distance, not a threat. The Zirathi sent ships to remove the threatening marker. The Vorthak sent ships to protect their property. Both sides brought weapons just in case. When the Zirathi ships arrived, they moved in their traditional formation, a perfect geometric pattern that looked beautiful to crystal beings. But to the Vorthak, the pattern looked like an attack formation from their old war manuals. The Vorthak ships moved to defensive positions. Their defensive pattern happened to match an ancient Zirathi battle formation that meant prepare to destroy enemies. Neither side meant to threaten the other, but without humans to explain what the movements really meant, both sides prepared for war. Nasung watched it all from her research station. She was a xenopsychologist, someone who studied how alien minds worked. For years, she had been trying to understand why humans were so good at talking to other races. Now she was starting to see the answer. Na-Sung pulled up her computer files on human history. Earth had thousands of different cultures. Humans who lived in hot places thought differently from humans who lived in cold places. People who fished for food had different customs from people who grew plants. Even on the same continent, humans could be completely different from each other, but they had learned to get along. They had to, or they would have destroyed each other long ago. Other alien races had not needed to learn this skill. The Zirathi all came from crystal caves and thought the same way. The Vorthak all lived in meat cities and shared the same culture. Each race had grown up together, thinking alike. Humans were the only race that had practiced dealing with truly different ways of thinking. "That's it," Nesung whispered to her empty lab. "That's why we're the only ones who can do this job." But knowing the answer did not help stop the war on Earth. President Duri sat in her office, reading the same messages that Park Jun was getting. Her advisors wanted her to send help. The media wanted her to explain why humans were not stopping the war. Other human colonies wanted her to do something, but Duri remembered the insults. She remembered being called primitive. She remembered being told that humans were holding back galactic progress with their annoying emotions. "Let them handle it themselves," she told her staff. They wanted independence from human interference. Now they have it. The war started on a Tuesday. Zirathi crystal ships fired mathematical precision beams at Vorthak meat ships. The Vorthak fired back with biological weapons that ate through crystal hulls. Neither side had meant for it to happen. Both sides had tried to avoid it. But without humans to translate their intentions, they had stumbled into conflict like blind people in a room full of knives. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered on Harmony Prime, stationed to discuss the crisis. The meeting was a disaster, without human mediators to keep order. Every race talked at the same time. The stellar nomads accused the plasma communion of taking sides. The Depths Union claimed the hive clusters were planning to join the war for profit. The energy dancers said everyone was being too aggressive, while the stone mines said everyone was being too weak. Old arguments that humans had helped settle years ago came back. Border disputes that had been peacefully resolved started up again. Trade agreements fell apart when races decided they could not trust each other anymore. "Order! Order!" shouted the council speaker, but its crystal voice was lost in the chaos. Park Jun listened to the radio broadcast from the council meeting. He could hear the fear in every voice. These were not evil beings. They were scared beings who had forgotten how to talk to each other. His communication officer looked up from her console. "Captain, the Vorthak are withdrawing from the Galactic Defense Treaty. They say they can't trust the other members anymore." "And the Zirathi?" "They're pulling out of the trade regulation agreement. They think it's been compromised by enemy agents." One by one, the great treaties that held the galaxy together were breaking. Each race thought the others were plotting against them. Fear was spreading like a disease. Na Sung watched her computer screen as more reports came in. The galaxy was falling apart, and it was falling apart fast. Without humans to provide trust and understanding between different types of minds, the whole system was collapsing. She thought about the irony. The aliens had rejected human emotions as weakness. But emotions like trust, empathy, and friendship were what made civilization possible. Without them, even the smartest beings in the galaxy could not work together. The age of galactic cooperation was ending. The age of galactic fear had begun. Kim Woo heard the news while loading refugees onto his ship. The safe harbor was not built for this many people, but he made room anyway. Fish-like depths Union children shared space with young hive cluster drones. A Zirithi crystal being helped feed plasma energy to scared communion babies. The council voted to dissolve itself this morning, his second officer Rhea reported. She was cleaning wounds on a Vorthic civilian who had been caught in the crossfire. No one could agree on anything anymore. They spent 6 hours arguing about what language to use for the dissolution announcement. Kim Woo shook his head. How many more ships are coming? 15 refugee vessels in the next hour. Maybe more after that. Navigator Un-A looked up from her charts. The safe zones are shrinking, Captain. Soon there won't be anywhere left to run. The galaxy had broken into pieces. Where once there was one big government, now there were dozens of small alliances. Each group thought the others were enemies. Trade had stopped. Travel was dangerous. War was everywhere. The spiral war had started 3 weeks ago. Nobody could agree on how it began or who started it. The plasma communion, said the energy dancers, attacked first. The energy dancers blamed the stone mines. The stone mines pointed fingers at the hive clusters. Truth did not matter anymore. Fear was all that counted. Kim Woo watched a family of stellar nomads float past in their environment. Suits. They had lived in space for thousands of years, but now even the empty void between stars was not safe. Ships fired at anything that moved. Captain, Anne called softly. I'm getting a message from Earth. It's coded for your eyes only. Kim Woo read the message in his private cabin. It was from Bio Han, the director of Earth's interstellar relations. The message was short but heavy with meaning. The president is under pressure to help. Some humans want to return and fix this mess. Others say the galaxy made its choice and should live with it. She needs data. How bad is it really? Kim Woo looked around his ship. Alien children were crying for parents they would never see again. Adults stared at walls with empty eyes. These beings had lost everything, their homes, their families, their hope. He started typing his reply. Director, it's worse than we thought possible. Not just the wars. Everything is falling apart. The great space stations are breaking down because no one will work together to fix them. Trade routes that fed billions are closed. Research projects that could cure diseases have stopped because the scientists can't talk to each other anymore. The beings here are not evil. They're scared and confused. They don't know how to trust each other without us to help them. It's like watching children try to run a city after all the adults have left. On Harmony Prime Station, the lights were going out. Wuda and Min so worked by emergency power as they documented the end of galactic civilization. The station that had once housed thousands of diplomats now held only a few dozen beings. The water recycling system failed yesterday, Wuda reported into his recorder. The Depths Union engineers refused to work with Zirithi technical staff. They say the crystal beings might sabotage their equipment. Min So looked up from her computer. The food production units are next. The different species can't agree on safety standards anymore. Everyone thinks everyone else is trying to poison them. They were the last neutral observers recording the death of a dream. For 3,000 years, different races had lived and worked together in peace. Now that dream was turning into a nightmare. Do you think the humans will come back? Min So asked. Wuda was quiet for a long moment. Would you? After the way we treated them? The question hung in the air like a curse, back on Earth. Bio Han read Kim Woo's report to President. Du Ri, The president sat in the same chair where she had decided to withdraw from galactic affairs. That decision had seemed right at the time. Now she was not so sure. How many dead? She asked quietly. Billions, Biohan replied. And that's just the direct casualties. Millions more are dying from starvation and disease as supply chains collapse. And they still blame us for leaving? Some do. But more are starting to ask ... what would humans do? They're beginning to understand what they lost. Doris stood and walked to her window. She could see Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. Such a beautiful, peaceful world. It was hard to imagine that this small planet had once held the galaxy together. Any formal requests for help? Not yet, too much pride. But our intelligence says some moderate leaders are talking about it. They're scared, Madam President. They're more scared than they are proud. 3 more wars started that week. The Crystal? Wars between different Zirathi factions. The Void conflict as stellar nomads fought over the last safe space routes. The hunger riots as food-producing worlds refused to feed their enemies. Each conflict made the next one more likely. Trust, once broken, was almost impossible to rebuild. Fear fed on fear until it became a monster that ate everything in its path. Kim Woo continued his rescue missions, but there were too many people to save and not enough safe places to take them. Every day the galaxy got smaller and more dangerous. The age of cooperation was truly over. The age of survival had begun. 2 years after humanity left the galaxy to govern itself, Jinmi stood in the ruins of New Harmony Station. The great meeting place had been beautiful once. Now, broken crystal littered the floors and emergency lights flickered like dying stars. Another supply ship was attacked yesterday, her assistant reported. The pirates said they were Hive Cluster resistance fighters. The Hive Clusters say they were Vorthek terrorists dressed as bugs. Jinmi nodded sadly. She led one of the last mixed species relief organizations in the galaxy. Beings from different races worked together to help war refugees. It was dangerous work. Many groups saw them as traitors for helping the enemy. How many children at the camp now? Over 10,000, all species mixed together. Their parents are dead or missing. Most of them don't even remember what the war is about. That was the worst part. A whole generation of alien children were growing up knowing only fear and hatred. They learned that other species were dangerous. They learned that trust was stupid. They learned that violence was normal. Jin Mi wrote her daily report to Earth. Every day, she sent the same message. Please help us. Every day she got the same answer. The withdrawal stands. She understood why. The galaxy had insulted humanity. For 3 centuries, they had called humans weak and primitive. They had demanded that humans pay taxes for the right to help. They had treated Earth's children like servants, but understanding did not make it easier to watch civilizations die. On the broken remains of Harmony Prime, Wuda and Min so continued their work. They were historians now, recording the end of an age. Their research had revealed terrible truths about how much the galaxy had depended on humans. Look at this, Min So said, pointing to her screen. The Meridian Peace Treaty of 2387. I always thought it succeeded because both sides were reasonable. But look at the hidden files. Wuda read over her shoulder. The files showed the real story. The Aquatic Federation and the Desert Alliance had been ready to go to war over water rights. Their cultures were completely opposite. The water people thought sharing was natural. The desert people thought hoarding was survival. Human mediator Young-Soo had spent 6 months living with both groups. She learned to swim with the water people and walk in the desert with the sand people. She understood both cultures so well that she found a solution nobody else could see. The water people needed to feel generous, Wuda read. The desert people needed to feel secure. Young-Soo created a treaty where the Federation would give water as a gift, but the Alliance would store it as their contribution to galactic emergency reserves. Both sides felt like they were winning. Both sides saved face. The treaty lasted 150 years. Every major peace treaty, Min So whispered, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange program. They all worked because humans found ways to make everyone feel respected. They found similar patterns everywhere. The Great Trade Wars of 2341 had ended when human negotiator Kim Do convinced both sides they were fighting for the same goal: prosperity for their people. The religious conflicts of 2398 had stopped when human cultural expert Park Me showed each group that their different beliefs actually shared the same core values. Humans weren't just translating languages, Wu Da realized. They were translating entire ways of thinking. And now those translators were gone. The evidence was everywhere. Without humans to explain cultural differences, every disagreement became a fight. Without humans to find common ground, every negotiation became a battle. Without humans to provide trust and empathy, the galaxy had forgotten how to live in peace. Wu Da pulled up the casualty reports. In 2 years, more beings had died than in the previous 2 centuries combined. Entire species were going extinct. Whole star systems were becoming lifeless. We have to tell them, Min So said, the moderate leaders, the ones who might still listen. They need to know what we've learned. Tell them what? That we made the biggest mistake in galactic history? That we destroyed our own civilization because we were too proud to admit humans were special? Yes, Min So said firmly, exactly that. They began sending their research to leaders across the galaxy. Most ignored the messages. Some called them traitors for praising humans. But a very few, started to listen. On the refugee ship Last Hope, children from 20 different species played together in the cargo hold. They had learned to share food and toys without thinking about racial differences. They comforted each other when the nightmares came. Jinmi watched them and felt a strange hope. These children, born in the chaos of war, were learning the same lessons humans had learned on Earth long ago: how to live with beings who were completely different from themselves. Maybe it was not too late. Maybe there was still a chance to rebuild, but first, someone would have to swallow their pride and ask for help. The question that had once been whispered in dark corners was now being spoken aloud in government meetings. What would the humans do? Soon that question would become a plea. Please, humans, come back. The galaxy was finally ready to admit it needed Earth's children. The question was, would Earth's children forgive the galaxy? The alien ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system on a quiet Tuesday morning. 12 vessels from different species flying together in a formation that would have been impossible 3 years ago. President Duri watched the approaching fleet from her office window. She had known this day would come. The galaxy could not survive much longer without help. They're requesting permission to land, her communications director reported. The delegation includes Quartz Pattern 7 from the Zerathi Coalition and Flesh of Ancient Wisdom from the Vorthak Hegemony. They're calling themselves the Alliance for Galactic Survival. Duri almost smiled at that name. 6 months ago, those 2 species had been trying to destroy each other. Now they were flying together to Earth. Are they armed? No weapons detected. They're broadcasting on all frequencies that they come in peace. They're begging, Madam President. Duri had waited for this moment, but she did not feel the satisfaction she had expected. Watching the galaxy tear itself apart had been painful, even for someone who remembered every insult humanity had endured. She called a meeting of her senior advisors. Sung Yu, her chief advisor, presented 3 options they had prepared months ago. Option 1, permanent isolation. We close our borders and let the galaxy solve its own problems. Option 2, conditional re-engagement. We help, but only on our terms. Option 3, full intervention. We go back to our old role and try to rebuild everything from scratch. The debate that followed was fierce. Some advisors wanted revenge. Let them burn, said Defense Minister Oh Nam. They called us primitive. They said we were holding them back. Now they can live without us. Others urged mercy. They're dying out there, said Education Minister Lee Sun. Yes, they were wrong about us. But they're paying for that mistake with billions of lives. The decision fell to a special council of young humans who had grown up watching the galaxy destroy itself. Junna, the council chair, had been a child when humanity withdrew. She had seen the news reports of wars and refugees. She had watched alien children starve because their parents could not stop fighting. "We have a choice," Junna said to the council. "We can be right or we can be helpful. We can nurse our wounded pride or we can heal wounded worlds." Mi Li, the military representative, disagreed. "If we go back now, they'll just take us for granted again. They'll use us until they think they can manage without us, then kick us out like before." Ewu, the diplomatic expert, found a middle path. "What if we go back, but this time as equals? Not as servants who fix their problems, but as partners who teach them to fix problems themselves." The young council debated for days. The alien delegation waited in orbit, growing more desperate as reports arrived of new wars breaking out across the galaxy. Finally, the decision was made. Du Ri met with the alien delegation in the same room where humans had first been invited to join. Galactic civilization 400 years ago? The symmetry was not lost on anyone. Quartz Pattern 7 spoke first. The Zerethis crystal body flickered with patterns of shame. "President Du Ri, we come to admit a terrible truth. We were wrong about humans. We thought emotions were weakness. We thought logic alone could govern the galaxy. We were fools." Flesh of ancient wisdom's many arms gestured in the Vorthic pattern for deep regret. "Our people are dying because we do not know how to trust each other. We fight because we cannot understand each other. The computers translate our words, but they cannot translate our hearts." Other delegates added their voices. The Depths Union representative bubbled with sorrow. The Plasma Communion flickered with desperate hope. The Stellar Nomads turned off. Their life support briefly, the highest honor they could offer. "We ask not for mercy," Quartz Pattern 7 continued. "We ask for a teacher. Show us how to live together again. Show us how to turn our differences into strengths instead of weapons." Du Ri looked at each alien face, remembering the centuries of insults and dismissals. Then she thought of the refugee children Jin Mi was caring for. The orphans of a galactic war that could have been prevented with a single human mediator. "Humanity will return," she said finally, "but not as your servants. This time we return as your partners." Equal partners, the conditions were simple but firm. Any species that wanted human help had to acknowledge that emotional intelligence was as important as logical thinking. They had to admit that cultural understanding was not weakness but strength. They had to promise to treat humans with the same respect they showed each other. Most importantly, they had to learn. Humans would not just solve problems for them anymore. Humans would teach them to understand each other so they could solve problems themselves. The first Interspecies Cooperation Summit was held on Earth 6 months later. Representatives from 200 worlds gathered in Geneva, where human diplomats had once learned to negotiate between Earth's many nations. Kim Woo stood at the podium, where his grandfather had once signed the first galactic treaty. The room was full of beings who had spent 3 years learning the cost of hatred and the value of trust. "We are here not to rebuild the old galaxy," Kim Woo said, "but to build a new one. A galaxy where differences are celebrated, not feared, where emotions and logic work together, not against each other, where every species has a voice and every voice is heard." The new charter was signed in 100 languages and quantum frequencies. For the first time in galactic history, the words emotional intelligence appeared in an official treaty as a required skill for all diplomats. Yuna, now Earth's chief cultural ambassador, watched the signing ceremony with tears in her eyes. 3 years ago, she had hidden in the dark, watching civilizations destroy each other. Now she was helping to build something better. The age of human servitude was over. The age of true galactic partnership had begun. In the cargo hold of the New Harmony, alien children still played together, sharing toys and comfort, but now they were not refugees from war. They were students learning to build peace. And their teachers, human and alien alike, were finally working together as equals. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Some knowledge can only come from the heart.